Ladies and gentlemen, the house is now open. The house is now open. Thank you.
You're listening to Unseen Theatrics with Clinton Kamak.
Hello and welcome to today's edition, managing different inputs from both camera and playback to be shown live during a performance. Selecting shots that are in focus with correct exposure to help present a story that engages the audience. Today we are talking about a vision switcher. Steve has been in the industry for 15 plus years and has toured nationally and internationally, switching with one of the biggest illusion shows. Please welcome Steve to Unseen Theatrics podcast for today. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, that's all right. It's good that you could give us some time to have a bit of a chat.
Time seems to be something I have a lot of lately.
Don't we all, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about vision switching. Can you just give us a brief description of what that is?
Sure. Can be anything from as simple as a couple of laptops to live cameras. You know, it's basically more than just having a simple PowerPoint show. It's where you have multiple sources and then you're combining them into one show, be it via a switcher, via a media server, something like that.
Yeah, okay. All right. I know you have a gig bag.
Oh, yeah.
What are your three top things that you have in your gig bag that you take to every gig?
Three biggest ones is a video tester of some description. So
Okay.
it's a digital forecast troubleshooter mini.
Right.
Again, it's a little 5-inch device, but it gives a few more diagnostic tools.
Yep.
So you can see what your signal's doing and try and figure out where your problems are and get things working.
Yep. And the other two?
Second one is I like to carry at least one decimator MDHX.
Okay.
A cross converter, SDI to HDMI, HDMI to SDI. It has a scaler inbuilt. You don't have to use it. You can use it. It's remarkably flexible, and it's a great get out of jail free card. Frequently, if you've got a signal that's a switcher that's not happy with a camera or something's just not passing right, or especially if there's a HDMI device that's not playing right, passing it through the scaler can often fix a lot of problems.
Yep.
And it's nice to just have it there as I'm going to stick it in the chain and see if it fixes things.
Yeah, and another feature of them as well, it can also split SDI signal as well, so you can loop it out to another device.
You can have it coming in SDI, coming out 4 SDIs and a HDMI.
Yeah.
You can also set it up so that I have done this actually on a show. I've had it plugged into a computer on set. That's fed SDI back to me. I've then sent a mixed image back down another SDI cable that comes out the other HDMI to a monitor. So we've had one device on set doing two jobs. It's great.
Yeah.
And they're Australian made. So, all good.
Yeah, supporting Australian products. And the third thing?
Look, when I'm touring,
Yep.
my own headset.
Yep, okay.
Especially if I'm working a show where we're doing, worst we've done is 18 shows in a week.
Yep.
You're spending many, many hours with a headset clamped to your head.
Yeah, and you want it to be comfortable.
Buying your own headset might be the same as having your own gloves.
Oh, look, I've got my own headset as well, and it's great.
Yeah.
There are three good things. Any software and programs that you use all the time?
Oh, God. The likes of QLab is just everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's really good. It's simple. It works. Their ability to rent rather than buy, instead of having to outlay for the entire program, especially when if you're doing video, you probably need the video the high-end version.
Yep.
Especially if you're doing any sort of mapping or adjustment to the video.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've only got a 5-day show, you pay for 5 days.
Yep.
And the upside to that is it's on your account, and once you've paid enough that you've bought the program, they just give you a license.
How great's that? Rent to buy.
The unfortunate thing about QLab for me personally is it's Mac-based software.
Yeah.
I tend to run more Windows stuff.
Okay. Have you found a Windows based
alternate?
Yeah, alternate program that does similar things?
I have actually. It's not a direct replacement.
Yep.
Australian product called ShowQ System or SCS. it's extremely functional.
Yep.
If you want to build a playlist of clips with some control over start times, stop times, fades, basic fade ins and outs, it doesn't do crazy resizing and compositing that you can do within QLab. But if you just want to play back a series of videos, ShowQ is really good. There's
Okay.
a lot of tools in it I've not used. People do go crazy. There's a lot of people worldwide using it. The support's really good. It still gets a lot of it. It still gets a lot of development work. It's never failed on me. It's just really nice to be able to just chuck videos in and run them.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
It handles stills, videos. It's handled pretty much every format I can throw at it.
Okay.
Which is actually a downside. QLab can be a little picky about your formats, especially if something shows up 5 minutes to doors.
Yeah, that's right. And then you've got to run it through a converter and get the right format and codec.
Yep. Talking of dodgy content rocking out, that probably leads into Handbrake.
Okay. Yep.
Handbrake is a file converter.
Mm-hmm.
It's really quite good for making videos smaller.
Yep.
Especially if someone rocks up and it's a 30-second video that's 4 gig.
Yeah.
Squeeze it through Handbrake. A lot of the time, we've done side-by-side comparisons with visual artists, like being really critical.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as you don't go too heavy, you can really make it quite a lot more portable.
Yeah.
Frequently, if it plays, Handbrake can see it and it can spit it out. The nice thing is you then get your codecs conformed. All your settings are conformed, and you know that if you come out of the standard preset, as long as it plays, it's probably going to be good. It's not the best workflow.
Mm-hmm.
It's always better to get it made right from the start. But if you don't have control over that, you don't have time, but it's still your problem to make it work.
Yeah.
Handbrake is it's that Hail Mary. Okay, I'll just pass it through Handbrake and see if she works now.
Yeah. So they're the two main ones that you'd use, or 3? Sorry.
On basic stuff, yeah. PowerPoint and Keynote still have their place, absolutely.
Yes.
Look, basically software, the Adobe Suite.
Yep. Okay.
Being able to, be it your own videos, be it client videos, if it's adding text and titles to recordings, just top and tailing clips.
Yep.
Yeah. Getting a clip that has to play out of Keynote or PowerPoint, but it starts harshly. So being able to just put an audio fade and a fade in from black on the video.
Yeah.
Can save you hours of grief.
Yeah.
I suppose a piece of software seems to be on my machine a lot lately is BitFocus Companion.
Yes. Yeah. BitFocus with the good old Stream Decks.
Yeah, absolutely. Gaming hardware that's taken the production world by storm. If you've not worked with Stream Deck before, it's a series of tiny keyboards with keys that are made of video screens that are completely programmable and user controllable. You can put macros, hotkeys. You can control most of the major softwares. It has native tie-ins to all of the Adobe suite. You can drive most of the major media servers with it. Massively flexible, really useful, and really quite cheap.
Yes, yeah.
And then if you type BitFocus Companion, open source software, it increases that flexibility even more.
Yes, very, it's becoming more and more integral.
Yeah, and a really good community online. So if you can't figure out how to do something, both the Companion and Stream Deck users groups on Facebook are really good at finding solutions for your problems.
All right. We'll be right back with this week's episode. But next week, we talk to a composer.
Just recognize the fact that you're going to hate more of what you make than you're going to like. I set up mics in my bathroom and I splashed water in the bathtub. It depends on the show, but I don't like high volume.
Let's move on into sort of pre-production time. You get a gig, whether it be touring overseas or at a theatre somewhere. What information are you trying to get of the show before you get to the theatre, and what prep work are you doing?
The big one is, what are they trying to achieve?
Yep.
The goal is to have video in the show, not to achieve something via video, because they're going, oh, video's pretty.
Yeah.
We'll do that. As opposed to, we want to achieve this. We can get there by using replay live video. They go, I went to a show, it had screens, so I'm going to spend money on that.
Mm-hmm.
They went to Adele, they saw the giant circular LED screen, but they've got $2,000 to spend. I was like, well,
that ain't going to work.
Yeah. And look, sometimes you can be clever and you can get the effect at the cost of maybe reliability or quality. And, you make compromises as far as you're willing to go.
Hmm.
But understanding what they want, why they want it,
Yep.
and what resources they have to put behind that. Because when you say how long is a piece of string, you can spend a lot of money, with video and not necessarily achieve much.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So then, are you involved in putting the system together for that show?
Hopefully.
Yep.
Doesn't always happen, but in a perfect world, you really want to be there from the design stage.
Yep.
As a part of the production process, video is still a relatively new kid on the block. You'd be hard pressed to find a show that ends up 3 weeks from bump in without having thought about lighting design or getting a lighting designer involved. Unfortunately, video frequently gets left to the end because we can just throw gear at it.
Yep.
Which is unfortunate because it then limits what you can achieve, especially in the time, or there's other design decisions being made.
Hmm.
At best, it's nice to be involved from the start because then lighting and video can work together as
Yep.
well as with sound. You can work out, are you doing live video? Do you need lip sync? Well, that's going to direct your equipment decisions.
Yeah, and that's also the same with lighting, because if you've only got a 8K projector,
Yeah.
they're not necessarily going to be able to have lights up at 98%.
Yeah. If you don't have enough projection power, lighting has to cut. If you then try and do live camera to that projector, you're then going to run into problems where the camera doesn't have enough light in the dim. You need to balance.
Mm. Yep, and some good communication between all departments.
Absolutely. And if that discussion happens early, frequently you'll find there's better solutions to be had.
Mm.
From there, it's come out with a plan. Yeah, it's a balancing act between budget and the equipment you have available, what you need to hire, where you're going to get value for your money on the hires.
Yep.
If there's a high budget item that you're hiring, is it necessary? Is there another way around it? If it's absolutely necessary, well, then the budget has to be
there to have it.
Yeah.
Yep. So you're in and about the warehouse or getting the equipment prepped and ready to take out for the job?
Yeah. Depending on whether it's say I'm working for the production company or whether I'm working as external as a designer working for the company, then dealing with the suppliers.
Yep.
If I'm on the side where I'm working for the production supplier, then you going through where the client has come to us, we're doing full service production.
Mm-hmm.
You've got your equipment list, be it rental point, checking everything off, making sure you've got all that, making sure that you have spares of cables, because cables are things that always fail.
Yeah.
If you're going to be a long way from supply, is there any critical components that we should be taking spares of?
Okay. Yep.
Like decimators, throw an extra one in the box if they're available.
Yep. And you never know what curlies are possibly going to arise when you get to the venue.
Absolutely.
Like I just mentioned about getting to the venue,
Mm-hmm.
what does bumping kind of look like for you when you first get to the venue?
If you're external to the venue, find out who's running the floor.
Yep.
Be it for the house, be it for the client.
Yep.
Hopefully there's been pre-production where you've planned so that, lighting, sound, mechanists, everyone knows what's required. It's not always possible. Sometimes you're rocking up cold on the day.
Yeah.
And so then you've got to go through, are you hanging a screen? Do you need points? Do the riggers need to give you points? Do you have your rigging hardware? Do you have cabling that should be run in with other departments?
Yeah.
Do you have your vision cabling that should go in with sound stuff in traps or in floor protection? Does it need to go overhead? Does it need to stay away from power cabling from lighting or any high power draw stuff?
Yeah. So getting in and just having a chat with the person that's running the show, and then touching base with departments just to see what you can and can't do, and make things easier for everyone.
The more you work together with everyone, the better off everything's going to be. Have a chat to sound about any audio feeds that have to come from. Do you have playback? Do you need audio from? Do you need a feed from audio?
Yeah. When you're setting up your desk, you don't necessarily only want to give sound audio. You probably want comms headset from them, and you probably also want some stage sound as well, so you can actually hear what's going on.
Absolutely.
How do you normally set up your desk? So if you're out on a tour, where do you put the Vision switcher? Where do you put your playback QLab machine and or your little Stream Deck companion?
A lot of that comes down to the ergonomics of the show, but ergonomics is the key.
Yep.
You don't want to be turning and reaching for stuff that you need frequently. And you need to think about, do I need to access this device once before the show? Am I likely to need it at all during the show?
Mhm.
Can I put that further away?
Yeah.
Especially now using things like a Stream Deck where you've got a really compact control surface. Can I put that QLab computer way down in the corner of the desk? I can still see the screen,
Yes.
but I don't need to be near it.
Yeah.
Often I'll set keyboards underneath, like below my wrists, on a switcher if I'm using them frequently.
Mhm.
So between me and the switcher on the desk.
Yep.
If I need less frequency, I might put a couple of small road cases behind the switcher and set the keyboard up over the back of it.
Yep.
So it's still within an arm's reach, but it's not.
Not right at your fingertips.
Yeah, not right at my fingertips. It's accessible.
Yeah.
A lot of the ergonomics of your operate point are personal choice,
Mhm.
and I do change things depending on I wonder if this will work better. I wonder if that'll work better.
Yep.
I often prefer to have my TalkBack headset under my left hand, so off to the side, sitting on the desk.
Yep.
And that's just habit because my right hand is often using the T-bar on the switcher.
Okay.
I work much better with my headset on my left ear than on my right.
Yeah, cool. Is that so you can also hear the natural environment in your other ear?
Yeah, it does help sometimes. For a lot of the touring shows I do, we end up switching video from side stage.
Yep.
So there is benefit to having some situational awareness, maybe hearing the show, maybe hearing what's around you, what's going on. You can hear if people are panicking.
Yep.
But also, especially if I'm doing camera switching, I prefer to have a monitor with the show feed.
Okay.
Because no matter where you are, timing things to the beat, if you're not hearing the audio, if you're hearing the audio on the second or third reflection, you're always a bit behind the beat.
Yeah.
You want to be able to hear clearly what people are saying as they're saying it.
Yeah, that kind of works. You've touched on a few things, few terms, I should say, that people may not have heard of. T-bar, I think, was one of them. And just talk through a couple of the other terms relating to a vision switcher that you might come across on a regular basis.
Certainly. None of this is prescriptive. It's just one of the many ways these things can work.
Oh, totally. There's more than one name
yeah.
for any piece of equipment or action.
Absolutely. And there's also so many different manufacturers have slightly different ways of approaching things.
Yeah.
Your usual standard setup for a vision mixer, all of your inputs, say if you imagine them running from left to right, input 1 through to input however many.
Yeah.
Then across the control surface, you'll have a row of buttons, usually closest to the operator, is the preview bus. Sometimes you'll have a monitor for every input.
Yep.
More frequently, you'll have what's known as a multi-view.
Yep.
So the multi-view is a single monitor. Often it comes off of the mixer itself. Sometimes it's an external piece of hardware that does the job for you, which shows you all of your inputs laid out in a grid. It's a square for every input. A common layout, which is the 10 times view, is you have 8 sources at the bottom, 2 larger screens at the top, which is preview and program. Preview is your preview bus, so that you can just flip through that, have a look at your different inputs.
Yeah.
And then if you hit take, then it moves whatever you've selected on preview. It changes that into program. It just basically flips those two.
Yeah.
There's often a cut button, which is a hard cut. It just snaps between the two. Often there'll be a take button. Somewhere associated with the take button, there'll be a time value, and you can decide how long it takes to, or it might be called auto. You hit that and it'll automatically fade between the two, and you can set that anywhere from fractions of a second up to tens of seconds, if not longer.
Yeah.
You hit that one button and it goes.
Mm-hmm.
The third option, and one which is common to most switches, is there'll be a T-bar handle. Looks a bit like an old gear shift lever, and you can use that to fade between the preview and program bus. The main difference between using the auto fade and using the T-bar fade is you can stop halfway. You have a little more control over speed. So if you're trying to time a fade with a swell in a music or something like that, you've got a bit more organic control.
Mm-hmm.
And if you decide you want to stop halfway and do one of those really nice artistic blended shots, well, that's one of the ways you can do that. You have a second row of input buttons above your preview bus, which is the program bus. And if you select any of the buttons on there, it'll just hard cut to any of those.
Mm-hmm. What about transitions? You've mentioned how you can do it just cutting from one to another. What about if you want to get a little bit fancier and have dissolves or something like that?
Your basic transition is a cut. That's just a hard snap.
Yep.
Step up from there is a fade, and that's just a blend between the two.
Mm-hmm.
After that, you find a lot of mixer switches start having variations on wipes, and that can be one image slides in over the other, or it comes in from a corner. Frequently, you'll get one that's a circle or it's a square that comes out from the center.
Yeah.
And often you'll have variations within each wipe. So you can decide whether the new image wipes over or under the old one.
Yeah.
And you can decide whether the whole image comes in or it's just revealing the image in place. So it can be a tiny image that zooms up to be larger, or you can just have a hole in space that opens up and the image is already there behind it. You're just revealing it.
Yeah.
The other thing you can do is set it so that everything runs in the one direction. So every time you move that lever or hit the take button, you get a repeat of the transition you've just seen. The other one is you can do forward and reverse. So say if you swipe in from the left, when you go back the other way, it'll go out to the left.
Okay.
As opposed to always swiping in from left. You can go in and back out again.
Okay. What about downstream key?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things you can do with keying.
Yep.
Keying in its simplest form is what you're seeing with green screen. Green screen or blue screen or chroma key.
Yep.
It's where you're replacing one thing, something in one of your images with another image.
Mm-hmm.
You can do that just as a simple. You can do a chroma key just straight in the mix.
Yep.
Using your fader, or you can do it as a downstream key, which is it happens after the mix. So it happens to you get to use your mixer as per normal, but you hit the downstream key, and then that's how you'd layer a lower third. So where you get, say, someone's title bars across the bottom of the screen.
Yep.
That's a downstream key.
Okay.
It can be chroma key. It can also be luminance key. So it's either dealing with bright white sections or dark white or black sections.
Yep.
And depending on how complex your mixer is, you may have more than one downstream key. They're generally referred to as mix engines. You look at things like news broadcasts or sports. They'll have multiple different mix engines where they're layering the lower third, then there's the station burn, then there's the score bug, then there's all their own downstream addition, and each one requires its own mix engine.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's lots of things in a switcher.
They are remarkably complex pieces of equipment.
Something that just came to mind. You're dealing with huge amounts of images and all that kind of stuff. Do you have to deal much with resolutions, making sure they're all the same, or is it possible to have one which is not so good and another one which is real high quality?
Yeah, look, in a perfect world, you try and have everything the same.
Okay.
You pick what your output's going to be. If you can get your inputs to match, excellent. If you can have everything running at 1080 50p, so everything's 1920 by 1080 at 50 hertz, and it's progressive as opposed to an interlace signal.
Yeah.
If you can get everything working the same, things are going to be simpler. If you've got a mixer that has scalars on all the inputs, then you're probably fine, because the mixer will take in, as long as it's within its capabilities, it can take in that mismatch, convert it, and then spit it back out again so that they're all the same.
Yeah. Okay.
And that means say you have a laptop that you can only get to go to 720,
Mhm.
or you've got a lipstick camera on a band that's lower quality. You can scale that up. You can make it fit. It's not going to look as good. If it's too low quality, it's going to look grainy. You'll start seeing the quality difference, but you can make it work through the mix.
Okay.
One of the downsides you get on a scaling mixer is it's slightly slower.
Because of the processing.
Yeah, it's actually, it has to think about it. It has to do some work to the image before it passes through.
Mhm.
We frequently tour a Panasonic HS450.
Yep.
It's our big boy SDI switcher. Has no input scaling whatsoever.
Okay.
It's very, very quick. There's almost no latency on the way through.
Mhm.
We're trying to go from camera to screen with as little intervention as possible. But it means that everything has to, if the switcher is running at 1080 50p, all the cameras, all the computers, everything has to be able to come into the switcher at 1080 50p, or you get an exclamation mark on the screen that says, "No, I can't deal with this. There's no input."
Yeah.
One way you work around that's where you start using Decimator, MDHXs.
Yep.
It has a content scaler. It'll take in whatever you feed it. You say, "I want this output to be 1080 50p," and it spits
Mhm.
it out in a format that the switcher can deal with.
Okay.
You're
Yep.
probably going to add a little bit of delay to that source, but it means the switcher itself runs faster.
Yeah, cool. All right. If you like what you're listening to, check out my Facebook page, Unseen Theatrics, for more show notes and links sharing education of live theatre. Moving into TechRun, when you're working with cameras and that, what factors kind of influence you in taking what shots?
Initially, it'll be a discussion with whoever your director is, what they want to see. They're always going to have an image in their mind's eye of what they're expecting to see on screen.
Yep.
Yeah. Is there a narrative that you need to follow? Do we need to make sure we see, this potentially, there's a bit of business happening over here that seems to be nothing, but it's part of the story. And if we don't see it, it's not going to make sense.
Yep. Yep.
From there, it's sitting back. Generally, at least on the first run, I try not to call any shots during a rehearsal.
Yep.
We'll just sit back and watch.
Yep.
Watch everything. We might. We'll be generally having an open discussion with the cameras.
Yep.
Of what they can hit. Is there any interesting shots they can see? We'll get an idea for what's happening and just make notes of points that we'd like to hit.
Okay.
Bits of business, anything that we really want to hit, and also things that we don't want to see. If there's anything that's a bit messy, if there's there's areas that might get a bit crowded or just don't look good on camera or go through a dark patch, we'll keep notes on the things to stay away from as well.
Yeah.
Especially with the work I've been doing lately with magic shows, not looking at things can be as important as looking at things. Sometimes you want to stay away from, you don't want to give things away.
Yeah.
If it's something you get to repeat, you're going to tweak that over time. You've got the opportunity to go through, well, that didn't work tonight, I'll try something different tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
If it's something that we're repeating, look, we'll frequently keep a safe shot on camera 1 while camera 2 is trying something a little more risky for me to look at.
Mm-hmm.
And if it works, well, we'll give it a go tomorrow night. If it doesn't work, we didn't risk putting it live to screen.
Yeah. All that information that you've been writing down, does that end up being your cue sheet for the show?
It depends what the show is. Generally, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'll write if it's needed, especially if I'm going to be handing over to a different operator later.
Mm-hmm.
I might write a detailed shot-by-shot list, like a descriptive list of the shots in order.
Okay.
Including the things we want and the things we don't want, so that there is a narrative record of what we're doing. More frequently, I'll work with a set of bullet points.
Yeah.
In there, I'll have points to hit, points to not hit. Sometimes I'll keep notes of maybe a snippet of script that's going to lead into something we need to do.
Okay.
Or an order of events that they're going to do. A, B, C, D, then we go.
Yeah.
Frequently, we're not listening all that closely to stage management.
Yep.
This is depending on the show.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a theatre show, yeah, you're going to be listening to the SM. Also, yeah, but you're also going to be doing less live camera work and generally in a theatre show. You know, in this act, I have 3 called cues, so there'll be a note to remember to turn the stage management loop up on my headset. I frequently have the stage manager just quietly in the background so that I can hear roughly what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But especially if you're doing live camera, we talk so much because you're constantly discussing what's coming up next. It's not just a standby go. It's almost a discussion of what's happening, where we're going, keeping a flow of things. But then sometimes you got to go, okay, guys, clear channel. We've got some cues coming in. And that might be coordinating playback cue that goes with lighting and sound.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes if there's automation, you want to be aware of what's going on there. So you keep notes of that sort of thing.
Yeah,
It's basically you need as much information as you need to hit the points you need to hit.
Yep, perfect. And just note there that you've got 2 lines of communication. You've got one with the show call on being the stage manager, and then you've got another loop with just you and your camera operators. So all the regular stage managers and LX don't necessarily hear all the chatter or the talk from cameras and yourself.
Absolutely. Frequently now, it's not uncommon for us to have 4 different loops of talkback. A loop will be general show loop. So that's stage managers, floor crew, lighting operator in normal operations.
Yep.
B loop. Often during rehearsals, it'll be lighting between floor crew and the operators. If it's going to be a long discussion about why something's not working.
Mm-hmm.
Frequently also B loop ends up being follow spots during a show run.
Yep.
Frequently C loop ends up being so cameras or AV.
Yep.
And then D can, when you start, depending on the show, sometimes it's automation if there's a lot of fly cues. And anywhere that there's going to be more discussion than is conducive to clean operation of the show, you start splitting those conversations out.
Yeah, cool. How do you call a camera show, or what kind of communication's happening over comms?
With playback, be it video playback or PowerPoint or something like that, it's very similar to running a lighting cue or a sound cue. Whoever is, be it the stage manager or the vision director, whoever's making that call, they'll give you a standby video 8 or VX8, and then there'll be video cue 8 go. That stuff's really simple. When it comes to more fluid things like camera shots, you're balancing everything, and you're also trying to think a few moves ahead. You've got to keep an eye on what the action is, where you need to be, and make sure that you don't end up painting yourself into a corner where, you're currently on camera 1, but camera 1 needs to be on the other side of the stage for your next shot.
Yeah.
Because they call it moving live. If you have to do a whip pan with that camera live to screen, it looks a bit bad.
Okay. Yep.
With vision, it's often more like, okay, stand by for the next dance sequence. Camera 2, you are following the person in red. Camera 1, you're following the person in whoever's in doing solos. Camera 3, you've got the action upstage.
Okay. Yep.
But generally for a live camera show, you're giving a target, and then you're instead of actually giving a GO like you would for lighting or sound, you're just calling what camera you're taking.
Okay. Yep.
So I've got camera 1 is on the soloist. They're downstage. And I know that there's a bit of a dance break coming. So, okay, standby camera 2, dancer upstage left.
Yep.
They pick the shot up. Sometimes, and it also depends on your crew, how long you've been working together, how much communication you need. As we come into that solo, I'm not expecting response from my cameras a lot of the time. As we get into the point where, okay, I'm going to take this down, so it's just, okay, take 2, and that's all I'll give, and that's as I'm fading over to camera 2.
Okay, yep.
Anyway, okay, take 2, camera 1, pick up the soloist down left. Okay, yep, you've got them, okay, and take 1, and that's me. So I've switched to camera 2, given some instruction to camera 1, and it might be, okay, take 1, 2, stay where you are, A lot of time it's sold instructions until given otherwise.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Okay.
But for your average show, it's like, give it a target. When it's good, I'll take it.
Yep.
And then I'll go to something else. I suppose the major variation to that is if I'm doing a half and half shot, or I'm going to take a long, slow fade. The language I've seemed to adopt over the years is, okay, I'm on camera 1 down the front. So, okay, slow into 2. Okay, 1 is clear.
Yep.
So during that time, camera 1 knows they need to hold.
Yep.
Sometimes they don't hear me, and then it all goes really messy. But then you just keep moving on and go on with the rest of the show.
Yeah. We'll move on from tech run and we move into dress. Does much change during a dress run? Are you still getting any feedback from directors or anything like that?
During the dress run, frequently in my experience, unless it's something glaring, they're focused on the performance. They're focused on the actors.
Okay.
Because if there's a dark spot, if the lighting cue didn't go right, they're going to see it immediately. If they can't hear what's going on, they're going to pick that up straight away. Unless the video is quite integral to the show, and sometimes it is. I mean, I've done an opera where the entire show was lit with the projectors. There was 5 lighting cues in an entire 2.5-hour opera. The rest of the lighting was all from Vision.
Yeah.
That you notice and you go back and fix. But on a smaller show where Vision is a smaller component, you have to understand that, okay, I'm going to pay attention. I'm going to sit back. If I can fix things, if I see something, flag it.
Yep.
Get it fixed. But you think, okay, when we get to end of the dress runs previews, that's when we might start seeing more notes.
Okay. What's kind of your show day schedule for a performance? What time do you arrive at the venue, and what do you do before the show?
It's allowing enough time to address problems that could be addressed. You come in generally, normal show call, hour before.
Yep.
Before doors. Some of the shows where it's larger, we've had an hour and a half or 2 hours before doors. If there's a lot of things, critical elements that need to be checked, that would need longer to address if there was problems.
Okay.
I'm a big believer in checklists.
Yep.
And not mental checklists, written down checklists. And you go through the list.
So that's checking that everything's turned on, checking that you're getting signal from all 3 cameras.
The playback's working, that anywhere that I have signal going from here to there, that it needs to see something, that my control surfaces are all working, that everywhere I'm expecting to see Vision to or from, it's going where it's supposed to go. I've done a walk around if I've got fallback monitors or backstage monitors or stage manager stuff. I've visually gone and checked that all of those have worked.
Yeah.
Checking that I'm getting a feed from sound and that sound is getting a feed from me.
Yeah.
Checking that all the comms loops work before the show. Firing up the projector, giving it time to fire up. Checking that it's working. Throwing color bars up. Throwing other image up. Making sure that it doesn't look weird. Playing video. Playing every. You don't necessarily need to play every show cue. Sometimes you do.
But basically, check everything you possibly can before the show.
Yeah, absolutely. And you do it early enough that if you do find something's wrong, you've got time to try and fix it.
Yep. Or you've got redundancies in place to help solve it.
Knowing your resources, knowing how your system works, and having everything labeled so that when the forklift drives over that cable, you can go, okay, which of these do I need? Which end? This bunch of cables at the end. Which one's the one that goes to the projector?
Yeah. When do you actually arrive at your desk ready to start a show?
Look, it comes down to, do you have cues pre-show? It always pays to go out and do at least a last visual check everything over before doors. One last glance over all your feeds, make sure your cameras are hot, make sure that your pre-show is rolling, let stage management know that's fine. In a lot of cases, unless it's ridiculously hot or freezing cold, I'll probably just stay at the desk from that point.
Yeah.
At the very least, you want to be there 10, 15 minutes before doors, before curtain.
Before curtain. Yeah. Okay.
because there's an audience there. They deserve your attention.
Yeah, fair enough. I hope you're enjoying today's episode, and if you are, spread the word. Let everyone know about Unseen Theatrics, sharing education of live theatre. How do you start a show? So you've got your pre-show going before the show starts as audience are entering. How do you then move into the show?
That's going to be dependent on the design of the show. I mean, the most common time to be on a loop with stage management is the top of the show, because that's when you're coordinating.
So at this point, you'd be getting cues from the stage manager to say, we've got clearance, we're ready to go. Can you go to a holding slide and get ready to pick up the MC if that was the show? Yeah,
I mean, it might be that detailed. It could be as simple as, you're on comms. The stage manager is going to run a comms check. They're going to check around the stations. By the time they're doing that, I like to know that I've got my guys on comms, because the stage manager is going to check camera 1, camera 2. He's just checking, okay, vision, you're there.
Yep,
we're all good. And you're getting the nod that, okay, MC has their mic, they're standing by stage left. When you're hearing the stage manager give the standbys for all the other departments, because, sound's going to have to take the house music out, lighting's going to have to bring spots, stuff like that. That's okay, standby camera 1, MC entering camera right, half body shot.
Yep. So you're taking your lead from the stage manager.
Yeah, that's the guidance. They're not giving direct instruction, but you're paying attention to what they're doing.
Yep.
So if the MC is going to walk on, well, they can say go all they like, but until that person's walked into shot, and I can see that the camera has picked up the person, they're framed right, and they're in focus.
Yep.
Well, I can't take it because they're not there. It's generally polite to say goodbye to stage management at the start of a show.
Oh, yes, because you're not necessarily going to be listening to them, so just let them know that if, where you're going to be.
Yeah. It's rare that I ever turn stage management off completely. Generally, I'm always leaving them in, just turned down in the background, so you've got your finger on the pulse of the show.
Yeah.
But once you've got the show started and there's a clear spot, it's like, vision of stage management, I'll catch you at interval.
Yep.
They acknowledge, then everyone knows that we've gone off loop.
Yeah, cool. All right, so show's going, and you've got your cameras, flicking between your cameras. Even though you've done all your pre-show checks, every now and again, there's bound to be something that goes wrong.
Oh, absolutely.
How do you deal with something going wrong in the middle of a show?
You don't panic. You keep an eye on where you need to go. You need to start prioritizing, sort of triaging the important things to hit.
Yeah.
And the potential things that could go wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we've had hired camera in another country. The power button started going funky, and you had to wiggle it into the right spot. This happened in the middle of a show.
Yeah. Okay.
Sometimes it's, and that one wasn't recoverable.
Yeah.
And I had to get onto stage management, say, look, camera 2 is down. Quite feasibly, it's not going to come back. We keep working on it. In this point, there's a variety show. We had a hypnotist on stage. Thankfully, we had crew moving on stage. We had to pass it to the floor staff to mention to the hypnotist that we don't expect the camera to be there. He's not working right now.
Yeah.
So let the people who need to know, here is a variation. Everyone knows, that way things go smoothly. Look, we didn't deliver the usual show that night.
Yeah.
The audience wouldn't have noticed something wrong. It wasn't as good.
Yeah, okay.
But at no point would you have noticed that there was a problem.
Yeah.
Plan ahead. Don't wait until it happens. Think, where am I going to go? How am I going to fix this? Or at least how do I cover it the least worst way?
Yeah. 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 How can I get out of camera 1 so he can reframe for the next act that's coming on, or the next part?
Yeah. And, if it's something like, oh, okay, QLab is down, I can't play this cue. It's not a show stop as long as someone tells the artist.
Yeah.
If they know to just keep pushing on, don't expect the cue to roll, the show can continue.
Yeah.
But if they stop and they're waiting for a queue and then someone has to yell out, "Oh, there's no video," well, that looks terrible.
Yeah, totally. You just mentioned QLab and main and backup machine. That's probably one of the good purposes of a little companion Stream Deck.
Oh, look, absolutely.
It's a hot backup in exactly the same position as what your main computer is.
Yeah, absolutely. You have two machines running the same queue list, and one go button triggers both machines.
Yeah.
If it's critical enough that not having it means we have to stop the show, is it worth having actual hot backup?
Yeah, totally. So the show can keep on running smoothly without having to have a show stop, because no one likes a show stop, especially if you're sitting in the audience and you've paid good money for a show.
Absolutely.
So we'll move on. House curtains come down, or they've taken their final bow. What are your post-show duties that you need to do before you leave the venue?
Elegant shutdown of all your gear. Anything that needs to be powered down neatly, power that down. So that's computers, servers, projectors. It doesn't hurt to make incremental backups of your show files.
Yes.
You should be doing that anytime you're making changes, and that means offsite backup, saving it to a stick or a drive and taking it with you.
Yep.
Look, making sure, especially if you're, say, touring in a venue that you don't control, make sure valuables are put away. Frequently, we have to pull cameras down, consumer electronics, that all gets packed away, which is frustrating because you're bumping in and out nearly every day then.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt to dust sheet things, but that doesn't happen terribly often.
Yeah, and that's just care of equipment, making sure no dust gets in, which can also running off the equipment.
Yep. You should be making notes during the show of anything that's gone wrong, any maintenance that needs to be done.
Cool. Is that also a good time to have a chat with camera operators or anything like that about any mistakes or bad framing or something like that?
Yeah, with cameras and stuff, a lot of that tends to happen on the fly.
Yep.
Frequently, especially if you've got to leave holding slides or states up until the audience has left, you'll have your camera operators back at operate before you're shutting down. So that's your opportunity to go through that sort of stuff.
Yep.
If the show does notes, hitting up the stage manager, checking if they've got any notes for you, or if there's anything within the production that you need to deal with. This, if you can get that then, rather than you get there and at doors tomorrow night, they go, "Oh yeah, I've been meaning to tell you about this thing from yesterday or a week ago," or
that's the last thing you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that kind of wraps up a show day.
Mm-hmm.
What about at the end of the run? So you've done, 5 weeks of this same show. House curtains come down for the last time. We've got bump out. What do you do at bump out?
Look, it's pretty much the same as any department. You have to coordinate with everyone with what's happening with your gear. In some cases, it might be more fragile or heavier than other departments, but that's just a case of coordinating.
Yeah.
Whose work gets done in what order? Like anything, you're just checking your lists to make sure that everything comes out and goes back in back in the right box.
Yeah.
Especially true if you're using hire gear, because you don't want to get charged for it.
Totally.
But just as much as if you're a production supplier, you don't want to lose gear on a bump out.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want gear to be damaged.
Yeah, totally.
Note any damage that is there.
Yep.
If it's bad enough, if it's hired gear, contact your supplier. Message them and say, "We've found this."
Yeah.
If it's your own gear, make sure you call the boss the next morning. Make sure don't let that damage be found in 2 weeks' time at the next bump in.
Yeah, that's right.
From an operate perspective, if you have recordings, make sure that they're backed up and they go to the right people.
Mm-hmm.
I quite like the version where they're pushed up to Dropbox and you send them a link, because then you have proof that you gave them to them.
Yep.
Make sure if you've got commercial content that you're not supposed to keep, make sure you delete it.
Yep.
If you have somebody else's video content, don't build a personal collection. If you don't have rights to hold that content,
get rid of it.
Dump your show folder off onto a USB stick and then wipe it all off that machine.
Yeah. Moving on from bump out, any post-production duties that occur?
Look, content management tends to be a big one.
Yep.
recordings, archiving of playback content, notes if the company are keeping them, run sheets if the company's keeping them.
Yep.
Anything that might need to be needed if it's something that's going to get restaged.
Yep.
Yeah, that's about it, really.
Yeah, no, that works. All right, so that's cool. Any tips or tricks that you've got that you wouldn't mind passing on?
Look, pay attention to the changing technology because it changes constantly.
Yep.
Stay abreast of industry news. Keep up your knowledge. Keep up your skills. Try and be as broad in your skills as possible. It's actually one of the downsides in video compared to something like lighting. You know what a light is. You can pick it up. You can hang it. You can transfer a lot of the skills between different consoles with a bit of an update. A lot of the switches are different. The configuration is different. Every media server is different. Knowledge from watchout doesn't help you in Hypnotizer.
Yeah.
Doesn't help you in D3.
Yep.
Other than the absolute basics.
Yeah.
So just keep upskilling wherever possible. Actually, a big tip at the moment: get your network skills up. Look, the amount of networking we're doing now, where sound's running a Dante network, but they're also running controls over the rest of their gear. Lighting, that's all network, and there's multiple nodes, and then they're starting to talk to us with media servers because they're sending DMX and MANet and all that stuff to media servers. We're sending them stuff. There's time code, there's video, there's everything. It's all networked, and as these networks start, we're ending up at the point where really you have a show network is what you need. At which point, this is a serious IT job because everyone's traffic needs to work on the same network.
Yeah.
So that I suppose that's the takeaway for that.
Yeah, nice. That's it, Steve. So thank you for being involved in this episode of Unseen Theatrics.
Oh, look, mate, happy to be here.